A new AI model is out every single week. How do you actually keep up? And more importantly, should you keep up? So in this video, I will explain how to evaluate new models and whether you should even worry about these new models for your business. So if you're integrating AI system for your business and new models comes up, you'll know exactly what to do. So if this is your first time over here, I'm Ricardo. I'm the founder of Uplifted Consulting, and we help companies integrate the AI across their sales and marketing teams. In this channel, I document all my thoughts as well as different builds around how to implement AI specifically for sales and marketing teams. Every single document is included within the description. If you want to read that and check the resources, if you download that, you will be added to my newsletter. Don't worry, I will not spam you. You will receive a mail from me every week with practical ways to implement AI. With that said, let's get started. So the most important thing is, should you even worry about it? And I have to say this: the Ricardo from the future is gonna hate me, but the TLDV is never worry about a new model release, especially if you have a currently working system. The reason for that is there are a lot of systems that you can have within your business that use AI, and especially if you already built one, the cost of having that replaced and having that modified is way more than the advantages that you get from a new model implemented within that. The reason for that is that right now we are at the stage where all the models that are released are incremental updates to the previous ones. And so if you do a good job at prompting the model and get what you are actually looking for, you don't actually need to replace the model. You can wait 1 year, 2 years, even forever if the model is not depreciated, and still get good results from that. One important thing that I want to mention over here when I'm talking about this video, over here I'm not talking about the chat experience of ChatGPT. What I'm mostly talking about is when you are integrating workflows and you are using AI within workflows for your business in different ways and shapes and forms. So with that being said, there is to me one specific use case where you should evaluate models, and that is cost optimization. So this doesn't really matter if you have a low scale, but if you're looking to do a lot of different operations at a high scale, then it matters to actually think about how you can optimize the module and how do you get the best out of that. So in this graph, what I have over here is an example of what are the results with no model optimization. And so over here it was constantly spending $8 to $12 per day. And then over here, this is the example with model optimization, which slashed the cost in alpha. And one thing that I haven't said over here is that the volume even increased because we choose the right model, but I will explain more in a second related to that. So model evaluation 101. So most important things that you can know about models. There are a lot of different tools that you can check. I think the best one that you can see is Open Routers. And within Open Router, you can check key information to the model. Okay, so we are within Open Router. Open Router, if you don't know, essentially is a platform that contains all the different models, and you can use this platform as a replacement of ChatGPT. You can integrate ChatGPT keys and not having to pay more. You can integrate all sort of keys directly over here. And over here, you can also compare different models. So what I want to do over here is I want to get started with the search and the search AQ 4.5, which was a model that was released, I think yesterday probably, by Claude. So over here, we have a bunch of different information that we can see. So first off, what we can see is what is the context window. So essentially, the context window is how many information can you fit within a prompt or within a series of prompt or within a conversation. So this is 200K. What is the cost per input tokens? So over here, I'm paying $1 per input token. Input tokens essentially is what is the text or the information that you feed to the model, and then output token is what is the information that you get out of the model. So generally, when it comes to AI systems, what happens is that the input is always way more than the output. But yeah, that could change. That could change over here. So, and as well, another important thing to look at over here is the description. So that helps you give a little bit of context about what the model is about. So over here, for example, they talk about the model in terms of being used mostly as a coding model, from what I'm understanding over here. So what I want to do over here, and what I do most of the time, is click on the compare and try to do a comparison and select a specific model to compare. So for example, in this case, what I could do is I could compare this to a perfect example for this would be Gemini 2.5. So when looking at those, what I can see over here is that the description talks about Gemini 2.5 Flash as a workhorse model. So in this instance, just by not having that much information, I know that Gemini is way more broader in terms of use cases compared to Claude 4.5. Other things that I can see over here is context length. For example, I can see this one as a 1 million context length, so like 5 times the one that Aku 4.5 has. And then if I look at the pricing over here, I see this is less in terms of input pricing. And then for output pricing, we also have half the price over here. So if I'm looking at these two models and just compare those based on the information that I have available, I know that Gemini is the model with more context, less price, and so it should be better, right? So this all depends on the use case that we need to do. So in our specific use case, when it comes to implementing workflows, in this case, Gemini is way superior compared to this model over here. I think this model in this specific case is mostly used for coding and especially related to like sub agent, parallelized execution, those kind of things, which are could be useful in a coding environment, are not actually useful right now in an implementation environment like this. Other thing that I want to show you is how you can discover new models and how you can understand which models you could use. So first off, general rule of thumb is stick to foundational models. So there are a lot of models within this platform from all sort of providers like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, DeepSeek, Qwen, a lot of different things. But in AI workflows, 99.9% should be OpenAI, Anthropic, or Google. Stick to those. Ideally, when you're working on a specific workflow, one thing which could be helpful to do is stick to one model provider. So if you are building a workflow and you are building everything within OpenAI, just stick with OpenAI. This is also easy when it comes to working with a client so that the client doesn't need to have 30 different APIs, can just have one. And also with Open Router, you can just use Open Router and use that as a reference. So let me show you 1 second the interface of the models itself. So over here, what we can do is we can discover new models. We have a list of different models over here. Couple of things is we can search for the different input modalities and output modalities. Ideally, in our specific case, we mostly work with text and image, like 90% text, 10% image. So like what we can do is we can select those. Context length, this is not really important to select. I think pricing is, in this case, the most important thing. So let's say that we want to work with OpenAI. We just want to work with OpenAI. So we select the GPT, for example, and we select a specific pricing over here. So in this case, we can see that we have two different variations. We have this GPT Nano on this side, and on this other side, we have GPT OS 120 billion. So, or 20 billion. Yeah, this one over here. So let's, for example, do a comparison between this one and then OS 20 billion. So let's take this. Those are both models from OpenAI. One is a model that is used by them, like the smallest version of the GPT-5 family. The other one is an open source model. As we can see over here, the GPT-OS has $0.14 per million token. This one has 0.40. So like in terms of cost, probably this one would be better to use compared to the other one. Now, let me show you an example of how this is used in a practical sense, because like we are talking about all sort of models, you maybe don't have full context or full understanding of which models to use. And so let me show you a practical example. So this is a workflow that I showed in a previous video fairly recently. Within this system over here, we have three different models running. The important thing to mention over here is that this was not the first version. This was not the V1. Within the V1, we just stick with one model. And this should always be the case for every single workflow. So at the beginning, when you're working with a single workflow, just stick to one model, one provider, don't change anything, run the workflow, see what is the result looking like in that way. After that, you can start to make changes to improve the cost optimization. So in this case, what we did is we decided to go with three different models. The reasoning for that is the lower the amount of intelligence required for a specific task, the lower the cost of the model could be. So in this case, in the first instance, what we have is we have a system that does a research, and then based on the research outputs what is the ICP and what is the niche. So um, and on top of that, it needs to use different tooling and different things like that. So what I wanted to do over here is opted for GPT 4.1, and also maybe like let's search GPT 4.1 mini over here so that we have an understanding of that. And like in terms of cost over here, this is 0.40, this is 1.60, and if we compare this to GPT-5 mini, for example, we can see that we already get some kind of improvement in terms of cost, while probably keeping the same results. In the next one, what we did is we use GPT-5 mini. So in this instance, what we need to do is we need to build a query that has a lot of different functionalities, a lot of different things, and so I wanted to make sure that the work can be done reliably over here. So I opted for a model with higher intelligence in this case. That is why we use this kind of model over here. Meanwhile, in the end over here, we use another system as well. So we used the GPT OS 20 billion, which is a open source model. So let me go back over here. And the cost of this is like 1/10 of the cost of 4.1 mini, for example. So yeah, this is really powerful, for example, because it helps slash the cost compared to GPT-5 mini, for example, by a lot. Like just if we have a look at GPT-5 mini to this one, you can see like this is $2, this is 0.14, so it's like 1/20th of the price, more or less. So yeah, those are examples of how different models can be used, and how different approaches can be taken with models. The most important thing over here is always make sure that you don't jump to the next model as soon as possible if you already have a workflow built. The second thing is have an understanding of what the new model is, and preferably, if you think about building something, try to stick with previous models that people know are actually good. So yeah, that's all on my side. I hope this video was useful in having a little bit more clearer understanding of how can different models be evaluated, when to choose different models, and whether you should worry about new models once they come out and all the internet is screaming around. With that said, as all on my side, if you're interested in AI implementation for sales and marketing teams or for sales and marketing use cases, you can check the first link in the description. Otherwise, hope everything is good. Hope you got some value out of this video.